When we think of Christmas, we often think of Mary and Joseph's journey to Bethlehem, the city of David in which Jesus was born. Now, if we believed the front of our Christmas cards, we might think of Mary as a delicate little thing, Joseph confidently leading the way as her husband and protector with staff in hand on the demanding and dangerous trip to Bethlehem, finding no room available at the inn upon their arrival, and giving birth to Jesus in a cave that served as a stable. A pale, wan, delicate Mary. I don't think so. What would the trip to Bethlehem have been like for Mary and Joseph? Well, it depends on our image of Mary and Joseph. What was Mary like? When we think of her, we often think of pious images of a delicate, light-skinned woman adorned with unblemished, ornate robes, whose hands never saw the inside of a laundry bucket. As wonderful as these images are, they can't possibly accurately show us the real Mary as a first-century Palestinian Jewish girl, albeit an extraordinary one. There's no reason for us to think Mary was anything out of the ordinary. She was intimately familiar with long days of hard work, as were other Jewish women of her place and time, whose daily lives entailed various challenges far removed from our technologically advanced modern-day world, with washing machines and dishwashers and programmable hoovers that whiz around the floor and you don't even have to be in the room. Mary most likely began her day at sunrise, preparing a meal, perhaps bread and olive oil with dried fish. All the water the family needed had to be carried and stored for drinking, cleaning, washing clothes. Food, like ground wheat flour, had to be both collected and prepared, and firewood gathered for cooking and providing warmth in the winter. Clothes had to be washed. Consequently, Mary's work days were as long as 10 to 14 hours, and to keep up, she couldn't have been a delicate wilting violet. She had to be strong, efficient, and tough. I don't think Joseph as a carpenter would be a stranger to tough and demanding times in labour. He too would begin at sunup and continue until the light had gone, or nearly so. He was strong and resilient, with rough, calloused hands. And Joseph wasn't the old man portrayed with the long white beard sometimes in our pictures, but a young man in his 20s, hard-working, having saved enough to be able to marry. They would have spoken Aramaic. They would have known Latin and Greek. And in Nazareth, Mary and Joseph lived in what might be described as a small housing complex, very typical, maybe 4 small one-roomed houses made of stone with dirt floors connected by a central courtyard, which was used for cooking and for gathering, and often we found family groups sharing these areas. The grandparents, the brothers, sisters, married couples, children, everybody looking after everyone else. And they also shared the heavy load of daily tasks. And Mary and Joseph were no stranger to having to travel to Jerusalem and beyond. The society in which Mary and Joseph lived was not stable. How long would it have taken to travel from Nazareth to Bethlehem? Well, generally people would travel up to 20 miles a day, but given Mary's late stage of pregnancy, the number would have been much less, maybe around 10 miles. And this means their journey may have taken as long as 2 weeks, or as short as 10 days, and the hazards would have been many. Assuming the Holy Family travelled in winter time, and Jesus was born in the middle of that winter time, they most certainly would have encountered cold temperatures. I've been to Nazareth and Bethlehem when it's been snowing. Their travel experience would have been very different than ours today. They would have needed warm clothing, and they would have had to travel with others to make sure they were safe from bandits and robbers. And for provisions, Mary and Joseph would have relied on bread, herbs, and oil, and maybe some dried fish as an extra protein boosting treat. Water would have to be carried, maybe in wineskins. And after a long, dangerous, and grueling trip, Mary, heavily pregnant with Jesus, they arrived in Bethlehem to find no space for them, even in the family home. Today, if they made the same journey, they would get there only to face the barrier wall, separating Israel from Palestine, Jerusalem from Bethlehem. They wouldn't have travelled under the low arch into the old city, the low arch you can go and still see today. Their way would have been barred. And because of their nationality, not white, British or Irish or American or Canadian, but dark, Palestinian, Jewish. And they would have been strip searched and Mary may be rough-handled. Our Marys and Joseph today still travel through that road that goes in through the old gate. Imagine if they were coming now. Imagine what it would be like for Mary and Joseph going through the barricaded way. And say a prayer for Jesus' Palestinian and Israeli brothers and sisters, that they may come to a place of reconciliation and peace, and that the Mary and Josephs travelling today, the couples expecting children in the Holy Land, may know peace and stability and live without the fear that the first Mary and Joseph with Jesus knew when they fled to Egypt.